Today we're looking at two chapters, and that would be Bagman and Crouch and the Quidditch World Cup. And these chapters show us that politics is in everything. It was hard not to read these chapters and not just see all the rubbing of elbows that these political big names are doing here. In theory, everyone here is gathered for pleasure. They have gathered to watch a Quidditch game, which is one of the few extracurricular activities that we've seen throughout the series so far. And then very little of the actual set of chapters is the actual Quidditch game. I mean, we get an interesting play-by-play and Harry figuring out quite a bit, such as he really is a seeker that could match these seekers, because in that final seeker show-off, he's watching them, and he knows exactly what's actually happening. He knows that the Irish seeker is going to crash. He knows that Crumb isn't going to. And when everyone else is, even Charlie, who's been known as a seeker previously, and a good one, remember that the Gryffindors hadn't won the Quidditch Cup since they lost Charlie. He's yelling, "Where's the snitch?" And Harry has no doubt. He was like, no, like, Crumb has it. Like, it's done. And he knows why Crumb caught the snitch when he did. But other than those few moments, these two chapters are just inundated with politics with this veneer of friendly competition. We have the Bulgarian minister who's faking his inability to speak English. We have the English minister who's stupid enough to make the assumption that he doesn't speak English, and then often insults the Bulgarian minister in his retina. We have all these minister folks running around trying to keep magic to a minimum, and some of their most higher-ups, like Bagman, is walking around in his Quidditch robes. And then we have Crouch, who seems to be at least dressed well, but he's apparating. Like, no, that's just as noticeable as the purple fires and the shiny green shamrock tents. Like, no, that's a person appearing out of nowhere and disappearing. So what we have is the idea that pleasure in a lot of the wizarding world is, at least in some part, about something more. Consider even the Vila, and the leprechauns, like, straight up fight that they're getting into. This isn't just a sports competition, though in the real world we certainly know that Quidditch is actually very close to how a lot of people can get about things. such as soccer or, depending where you are, of course, football. Hockey here in Canada is a gigantic one. There have been riots. And they say that the football fans have riots. Hockey fans do it too. And so it's actually interesting that we're not getting a straight up sports riot, but we can certainly see that idea there. And the thing is, if we go back to places such as Rome and Eastern Rome, before it became the Byzantine Empire, sports teams such as chariot racing actually did have a big effect on how the country was run, particularly in Justinian's Eastern Rome. They had the greens and the blues, and these groups on the surface were the supporting fans of the green team and the blue team for chariot racing, but the politics goes a lot deeper. I mean, Justinian, among other higher-ups in the government, were literally pitting these teams against each other, not just in the stadium, but in the streets. And the worst moment in Justinian's early career as emperor had to be when they teamed up and rioted against him. So rolling is actually giving us this possibility right now, in showing us the sports along with the politics. It's the pleasure and the business that actually need to build with each other. And everyone's involved. We are getting tons of students name dropped here. Tons of different countries name dropped. In fact, we're getting a lot of schools as well before we even got the official list from Pottermore. We're actually getting the idea that there is this massive bigger world, and at least within Quidditch they're connecting to each other. But you can also feel how tentative those connections are. Like the ministers poking fun at each other, or the mascots getting into, like, full-on fights. I mean, those Avila turned into their bird forms and started chucking fireballs. For sports. And then we get, of course, our specific political system that Harry and his friends are living with. So we've got Fudge, we've got Crouch and Bagman, we've got Lucius Malfoy, who made a very big donation. Oh, isn't he so generous? And everyone's sort of looking at him like, okay, so yeah, we've got the money bags who can pay their way up. We've got Arthur, who can't pay his way up, but is still in the top box. We've got Harry, who's paying a lot of the way with his name and his scar, including the Bulgarian minister, who's just like, like, we have a lot of the political intrigue going on here. And how that just seeps into every aspect of everyone involved here. We have a conversation with Winky about her being afraid of heights, but she's a good elf and her master told her to be here, so of course she's here, even if she'd rather be in her master's tent. What we're seeing here is the fact that politics, even if you want to ignore them, is actually draining through everything. And it's not just the ministry employees like Arthur, or the people interested in rising through the ministry, like Percy, or even the celebrities like Harry and Crumb that are being affected. This is actually affecting everybody here, but we'd rather focus on sports without recognizing that that in and of itself actually has a powerful attraction here. Fred and George have bet their savings with a ministry employee, and they're going to get duped. They made a judgment call from what they knew, and they trusted somebody that in theory they should have been able to trust, because you want to be able to trust your government. And that doesn't work out. And we know that there's a secret something going on that the government hasn't released information for. And you want your government to be truthful with you, but that doesn't seem to be working. You want your government to be in control of situations like this, these big events, that they actually have things planned out and handled, and are willing to be honest about when they're not. But we've got Bagman saying, oh, there's hardly a hiccup, and ministry workers are running around trying to handle everything. What we are seeing is that politics affect even the pleasure of this world, but the political system is flawed. But there doesn't seem to be a way out in this moment, because humans are flawed. And the government is made up of humans. Every person we actually meet in this scene has their positives, but they also have some problems. I think we like to think that we can separate ourselves from the government and create this us and them idea. Not so much as an us versus them as us and then them cooperating. But Harry's getting a pretty good idea that it's all of us just in a pot. And we've got to figure things out from there. And some people have figured things out. They know how to get what they want using what they have. And if that means mixing pleasure and politics, then there are certainly people who are floating to the top because they know how to do that, even if there are hiccups on the way. So it becomes a question of, do you go along with a flawed government to get what you want? Or is what you want gonna have to be taking on the government? And that's another scary question, because we're going to be seeing Voldemort toe this line of, instead of changing things, just infiltrate and then develop. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em. And then beat them from the inside. It's how Rome fell. Wasn't barbarians at the gate, man. No, they let a lot of people in. And then collapsed from the inside. I think the magical government of Britain should be a little concerned. And I think we need to keep an eye out after this version of Quidditch and the tournament we're about to see, to keep in mind that maybe even school Quidditch has a little more political meaning to it than we necessarily want to recognize. That's just how the world works, it seems. Okay, so things are about to get a little messy for a couple of poor muggles and a house elf and some kids to get caught in the crossfire. And those kids are going to start realizing that there might have to be a point where they start firing back. This is going to be fun. So, that's it for today. I will see you on Monday. Until then, I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.